Yes. So
Running then, Andre. So you're at chapter 14. Have you got the book there with you?
yes,
You
I
hold it
have.
up so the viewers can see it in all its glory. There you go. Closer to God by Aaron Berry of the Awakened Brave. Now, you are on chapter 14, which is what, 250 pages in?
Yeah, 253 pages, maybe not something like
Right,
that.
and
Yeah.
so the book is 670 pages, so you still got a bunch to go. I'm wondering, how many people have actually finished the book? In view of that, there were 73 sold, and there's been one other person who had came forward and was speaking about the book, who read it in its entirety. And I just wonder if any viewers have bought the book and you've finished it, whether you want to come for a chat. And do what myself and Andre are doing. Now, the reason why I want people to come forward to do this is because I want to know my viewers' opinions. I've put my opinions down in the book, and I want to know what yours are, how your opinions meet with mine or diverge away from mine. So it's kind of like I just want to know something about my viewers and something about how you found the topic matter in the book. So you've highlighted a whole bunch of stuff, and well, let's just crack on then. Just start reading out what you've underscored there, and we'll see what we make of it.
Yeah, so we're starting with underlining here on page 122.
Right.
And we underline gone through that last time. Also, we gone through the previous pages and so on.
Yeah. So we got to a certain point, and then we said we'd continue with what we haven't actually addressed. Okay.
Yes,
Great
exactly.
stuff. Great.
So here's a quote: It's best to live life devoid of love, for fear of an equal amount of suffering being the debt ultimately demanded by the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's because every top has a low, so to speak.
Yeah.
Every
Everything
peak
has to
has,
level out eventually.
yeah. It might feel very nice to be at one's peak, but be aware of what eventually comes, and stabilize yourself in the mind towards that if you want to have that experience of immersive love with a woman or something like
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
think being in love is for the young and the foolish because being wiser, we would never really engage in it again. And I'm not sure whether being wise, we could actually engage with it again because I can't imagine myself falling in love at my age with all what I know about the human being and the fickle nature of humans and the vicissitudes of the multitude of demons which will make manifest in relationships at any given time, and so. I've read a lot of philosophy, Andre, and I've never encountered a philosopher who hasn't always had the greatest of reservations about love, because none of them were in it, and I'm quite sure that many never actually really experienced it. And if they did, then it's kind of like being stung by a bee. You kind of don't want that experience again, because what actually happens is that we are in this fiction of ecstasy, and we're looking through rose tinted glasses, and we can't see any wrong in our partner, and everything that they do is wonderful, and everything that we do is wonderful. It's complete fiction. It's not a reality. But what happens in time, as the sheen of love wears off, then we start to see the failings of our partners, and we start to point them out, and we have issue with them, and then all of a sudden the love is gone. And I'm long enough in the tooth to have experienced love a few times, and experienced the evil which has sometimes come out of it. I married a woman, and she one day left. She just up and left, and I never saw her again. I haven't seen her in 18 years, albeit we live in the same city. And at one stage, she did send me an email asking if I wanted to go out for a drink, which, of course, I never replied to because there was too much water under the bridge. And, the level of the deception is still at the forefront of my mind. And albeit, we had 7, great years, really great. But the end just embittered both of us. And so the quote that I stated in my book was from a philosopher who evidently had been scorned, and he reckoned that it's better never to be in love, because you're always going to have a debt to the universe to pay, because things have to find equilibrium. And it's only the naive and the silly and the insecure that want to cling on to love and want to keep seeking love. Even though, lots of people, they'll get married 4 or 5 times, and they'll go through umpteen partners. And it's kind of like, well, something's not going right. Either you're wrong or everybody that you're meeting is wrong. So give it up already. Just fucking give it up.
Isn't it more like it goes, but through different stages? You the love in that way that they were there to begin with might not be there. You become something else in the partnership instead. But it could still be helpful to have that still, as a part of the life. I would
Yeah,
imagine.
you mean to have long-term partners?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So look,
If I look at my brother and his girlfriend, because he's very sexually disciplined as well, he maybe empty his uh, wiener 2 times or 3 times a year, because he's practicing that discipline.
semen retention.
Yeah, yeah, but I think he just to do that because he has done that a lot, throughout the years.
So how do you have a girlfriend if you're practicing semen retention?
You make sex into a rarity, maybe only have it maximum 3 times a year.
I'm sure his girlfriend is a very rare sort.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh my God.
She's
Is she a
pretty
nun?
decent. Maybe.
Oh my God. Well, you see,
But
that's not normal, is it? And,
no.
there's some speak about retention of semen has spiritual benefits. I think it's a complete crock of shit. To the core, I just think it's a crock of shit. You know, look, the human being, through millions of years of development, has that need, that necessity, that requirement, that level of functioning. And it's kind of like saying, if you blind your eyes, then you're going to be more spiritual. Well, why would any idiot want to do that?
But
Why
but
would
but,
any
but
idiot want to deprive that beautiful privilege of being alive?
it I mean, in tantra and so on, there's black tantra, there's white tantra, and there's gray tantra. In black tantra you release all the time. In gray tantra you release every now and then. In white tantra you don't release at all. And what you do is actually let the semen go up here instead of throughout the wiener, you know. So it goes up here instead. I know Julius Vola talk about that in
Let the
his book
semen
as
go up to
well.
your head. Well, I think that's a biological impossibility, to be fair. Do you mean
Yeah,
the energy of the
but
semen?
yeah, but it's not the like material fluid, but it's like the spiritual fluid that goes in there. You know, immaterial thing.
Yeah, and so the premise behind it, I haven't looked into a great deal, and I've never watched any of these videos talking about semen retention because I just think it's the height of idiocracy. Um, it's just some I don't know. You could say ridiculous, stupid, new age nonsense, but you know these tantric people. They've been practicing it for thousands of years, and you know they must feel that there's some benefit to do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. And you know we hear speak of well, it's a waste of energy. All this life force it weakens you. You know, I've never ever in my whole life being aware of any weakness when I've ejaculated. And of course, as a young man having sex with a girlfriend numerous times a day, you know, 6 times wouldn't be any problem for a young person. And all I got from it was the greatest of invigoration and feeling absolutely alive. And, you know, then, you know, going to the gym and doing all the things I've done, just feeling masculine, macho, energized, and powerful. I've never actually ejaculated like, oh, I can't walk no more. Oh, I can't pick the garden because all my energy's been drained by a demon. Oh, fuck's sake. What do you think about that, Andre? Really? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can ejaculate and do a lot of things afterwards as well, you know.
Yeah.
But I would imagine a person that do it very much, you know. There's people that does it for hours, just masturbating and stuff like that. They must be pretty drained after that, I would think.
Well, I don't know. There might not be because, like, you know, how much energy really is entailed in masturbation? I'm pretty sure that you'd burn up more calories than going to the gym and burn up 500 calories than you would in an ejaculation.
But
Um,
but but it's actually sinking the gray matter within the brain as well, you know.
yeah, and you know, if we're looking at spiritual
It builds
terms.
up a prolactin in the brain and so on, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I consider I'm pretty accomplished in the spiritual realm, and
Yeah.
you know, I see certain things, I feel certain things, I'm in a certain dimension, this, that, and the other, and it isn't because I have refrained from masturbation, and so you know, I always like to say that the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and when people say, "Oh, you don't need psychedelics to have spiritual experiences," no, you don't need them, but it fucking helps. It fucking helps. And you can have a spiritual experience every single time you take a psychedelic. Whereas if you just meditate and don't masturbate, then you'll have one spiritual experience in your whole life. And it'll be just a crappy out of body experience or a bit of tingling, I'm sure. You know, honestly, I've never heard anything, you know, which is going to substantiate what I consider to be just a crock of shit. There's a lot of shit out there. There's a lot of people, you know, all this fire breathing and practicing these mudras, you know, when they're meditating, because the energy goes around here. Instead of being wasted out in the fingers, it goes back around in the body. Oh, fucking please. Fucking please. And then when they go, you breathe in the right nostril and then you breathe in the left nostril. Well, breathing in the right or left nostril goes down the same fucking cavity into the lungs. So what's the point in ooh, doing this breathing and ooh, that breathing? Bollocks. Bollocks.
Yeah, yeah. I do think it's like destructive to look at pornography. I think it is also destructive to look at TV and play video games, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff are destructive, and also scrolling at Instagram or Facebook or TikTok and so on are also very bad. And so, if a person scroll at those different things, they do. If they do one of them, they do all of them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think
Well,
it's very destructive.
yeah, I can see how watching porn would be destructive. Uh, Within a relationship, most certainly,
Yeah,
because you are always going to be looking at something other than what you have, and then you're going to be building up mental images and lust and all this different sort of thing, and you're going to be, ejaculating, and so you're not going to be requiring it so much with your girlfriend, and I can very, very easily see how the mental images of all these different women that you can experience most certainly would cause issues in a relationship. But if you are single, then I can't see too much of a problem, other than the fact that it may become too comfortable that you can't be bothered to go out and hunt for a woman. Remember, well, I'm a lot older than you, but when I was younger and there was no internet, we'd all go out to the nightclubs and we'd waste thousands and thousands of hours in bars and in nightclubs, money and drinking and all that shit, just trying to get laid. I mean, the amount of effort males go to just to try to get laid. Well, these days with porn, you just go, fuck the pub, fuck the nightclub, fuck the stupid fickle bitches. There's a billion of these bitches on the internet, and you can have hundreds of them, in the space of a few hours. And so I think there's a lot to be said for that.
yeah,
But it is destructive for monogamous relationships.
but at the same time, one doesn't need to aim at the disco pussy, girls that drink alcohol and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can aim at better girls than that. Girls that are into philosophy or other stuff,
Yeah, but
spirituality,
it's
and
all
don't
hard
drink.
work, isn't it? You've got to make effort, and you've got to go to these places, and then you've got
Yeah,
all of this.
can meet them outside also. You might see somebody that are at the gym or something like that, and she has a
Yeah,
fair amount of intelligence. Few of them have that, but there's very few. But
yeah.
at least there's some.
Now, of course, there's an age difference. I'm twice your age, and so I've been there and done all that. And I'm speaking from an older person's perspective now.
Yeah,
You sound like you're speaking from an idealistic perspective of meeting this girl that's into philosophy, and she doesn't go, to the nightclubs looking for guys all the time. And you met her at like a philosophical convention, and she's a virgin and all this sort of stuff, in an ideal world. But the chances of meeting these people are really quite slim, and like you have to wait a long time.
yeah,
And so, whereas porn is available for you 24/7. And so, I think ultimately, there will be no monogamous relationships, because we were never designed to be that. And the only reason we were ever forced into it is because of religion and social norms and all that sort of thing. And still to this day, they are paying dividends for families, people who stay together, and people who engage in the institution of marriage, and people who buy a mortgage together. Society fucking love that, because it keeps people very, very regimented, and they know that they've got them under their yoke for the next 25 years whilst they're paying off the mortgage. They know that the chances are they're not going to go whoring, because they don't want to, lose the relationship, because they've got kids and they've got the family home and the jobs and all that. So it's kind of like selling your soul to Mephistopheles. You enter into monogamy, which absolutely runs against the grain in all human beings, probably predominantly men. But looking at the world these days, I think it's a 50-50. And it's something that is genetically endowed into us to be a little bit monogamous initially for the benefit of offspring. So genetics gave us this sort of love thing together, or jealousy of others and protection over what we consider our ownership, our partner, because that's very, very beneficial to the survival of offspring. But then you see this love thing fades after like 5 years or less, and that's fine, because the young, the offspring, they're at an age whereby they don't need the security of two parents anymore, and so it's no longer necessary for families to grow up with two parents. And so I think in the future we're going to have like an Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, whereby all offspring are born out of a factory. They are artificially inseminated into mechanical wombs, and then when the babies are born, they are brought up by nurses that have no relationship with the babies at all, other than just an impartial nurse. There's no loving, there's no caring, there's no special conditions for any of the offspring, and then they go out into society. And so they don't have parents. There's no parents. And
Yeah.
that way they haven't been emotionally bound by certain parenting, certain biases, and these sort of things. And
Also, they are genetically modified to be in a certain way to begin with.
yes,
So, yeah, at the same time, people will operate themselves to be more robotic. On the other hand, there's this factory that produce human beings.
yeah,
We created the machine, the circle go around, and then the machine creates the human being instead. Yeah.
yeah.
But the thing is, like the machine is the pulling power downwards. It is the matter, so to speak. So it's it is really inverted when AI becomes like a god. It becomes like inverted god, because the god is not matter to begin with. So it's just like a hoax of a god, so to speak.
Hmm.
So and that is also when engaging with the machine. Looking at pornography is like engaging with the machine in a way. It's a lot better to have a prostitute than go look at pornography, I would say then. Yeah. Because that's with the human being, at
Yeah,
least. You don't fucking a machine.
yeah. And there are very, very human friendly latex dolls that are manufactured, which they have a very, very closeness to flesh, and the actual sexual organ and all that. Uh, and then have you seen that series called Humans? It's about robots, and these
Mm.
robots are very human-like. They have sexual
Mm.
organs, and they can do everything that a human being can do. Now you can find this series on Netflix, and it's very, very interesting to see how
Mm. Really?
people's attitudes and states of consciousness change. It's a British series, and there was a scene in it whereby the husband and the wife thought it a great idea to have a robot to do all these household chores. But the robot was beautiful looking, perfect body, and sexually available. And so, of course, the male started to have an affair with the robot. As you do, as you would, and then the trust is gone and the relationship's over. And then you ask yourself, well, look, if I can get um yeah, I think the majority of men are not that interested in love, to be fair. They're just interested in the physical act of sex. And if they can have exciting sex forever without love, then I think 90% of men would have their hands up in the air straight away. And I know for sure I would, because there's nothing worse than having the female emotions to contend with, which are completely in the averse of the male most times. And women are from Venus and men are from Mars and all this sort of thing. And now and again, okay, you find this little bit of symmetry where you enjoy the same things and that, but it's short-lived. It really is short-lived, unless of course you just become resigned. And like, there may be people watching this video now, oh, me and my partner, we've been together 30 years and we're very happy. Oh, I'll fucking better know you have. I bet you both think of other people when you're fucking each other. I bet you're fantasizing all day long, and I bet you're looking around at better options, but you're just too scared, insecure to make the move. And you're thinking like, well, this guy or girl knows what my shit stinks like, and they don't beat me up if I leave a skid down the toilet or if I throw me underpants in the fucking corner, and all the things you can get away with in an old stale relationship where people just like, oh, the balls have been broken, and just accept certain things. Whereas new relationships, it's kind of like, no, you fucking don't be fucking throwing your dirty fucking skids in the fucking corner. Don't be leaving skids down the fucking toilet and all
Yeah,
this
but
different
but
sort of
but
thing.
but you don't do that if you live together. I think because it's a way of showing respect as well. I mean, I don't want to make it problematic for another human being. If the person want to have it a certain way that makes it better, then you follow the way of doing it better and not worse.
Well,
And if
or you
you
follow
make it worse, it's just fucking stupid. And
or you follow the way of the most dominant partner. And for instance, I was watching a video of some guy that's got quite a lot of followers on YouTube and this that, and the other, and he was telling the story about using the toilet, and he has had to sit down on the toilet when he's going for a piss, because that's what the wife insists on.
yeah.
And
But
so
that's a normal human beings. That's not the kind of person that looks inwards and so on. Ultimately, you want to have uh, a girlfriend that look inwards as well. So and also enjoy the like a confrontational thing in a way, because it confronts your psyche and makes you look inward as well. And learn a certain stuff about it. I mean, it's an outdoor war and it's inner war.
yeah, it's very interesting, to have two perspectives here. One of a 30-year-old and one of a 60-year-old. One that's had an enormous amount of sexual partners and lots of relationships, and is or has been wholly disenchanted with the whole thing. And one that's kind of like desirous and hopeful, just to get a couple in one's life, because like you say, you haven't had a girlfriend in a few years, and so you're still filled with aspiration, whereas if you had 30 years of ball breaking bullshit, then your philosophy would change.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe.
I've seen my father's promiscuous lifestyle, so I see that that's not healthy either.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you call health? I think, to be fair, speaking from my perspective, having no relationships in the flesh, I don't spend any money, I don't spend any energy, I don't go out of my way, I don't have to make any compromises, I don't have to get involved in any bullshit, I don't have to make no sacrifices. Fucking hell, the list is endless. What I don't have to do. And when
Yeah,
I want to engage in a sexual activity, I can turn on the computer and they have all different sorts of girls from all over the world. You know, whatever fantasy you've got, it's just fucking going on. And so I can't really see any wrong in that, to be fair. And
yeah.
even Jordan Peterson saying like, the devil's in masturbation. I just don't see it. I just don't feel it. And so I think the devil is wherever you want him to be. To be fair.
Hmm. Hmm.
So anyway, we've probably we could go on about this subject forever, and probably
Yeah.
people are going, "Oh no, don't change this subject because it's speaking about human beings and activities and shit like that." They'll say, "Don't
Yeah.
start talking about that boring fucking book of yours." But no, we are going to start talking about my boring fucking book.
But
So
this was actually about your book. It was one line in your
yeah,
book
yeah,
by.
yeah. That's a very good
Yeah.
point, Andre. And the thing is, you see, what I say to people, why I enjoy these conversations, because one line in my book can open up our minds into a whole realm of human engagement, of psychological realms, and a whole myriad of emotions that get involved in one fucking line. There's 250,000 words in that book. There's 14 years of experience. Well, there's a lifetime of experience, but 14 years of real hands-on experience in that book, and that's why I call it the world's first spiritual Bible, because there would be more to contemplate in that book than a thousand stupid holy Bibles. Yeah, I'm telling you now, because you can't make head or fucking tail of most of that crap in there. But most people will be able to make head or tail of what I've spoken about in the book.
Yeah, yeah, I know, because there's always so much I think about, and then sometimes it just slips away.
Mm,
Like that.
yeah. So, well, read the next line out because that one's took half an hour.
Yeah. If we cannot adequately, this is on a page 125. If we cannot adequately define something and nail it down as something concrete, how can we be so sure of its existence? Why do we put so much emphasis on concepts that we can't even come close to defining? The idea of God is a prime example.
Hmm.
Yeah, how? Because there really needs to be clear examples of things when talking about a certain thing and so on. Like people can talk from a certain viewpoint and debating each other about the different stuff, and the other person have a different viewpoint altogether, and they try to convince the other person that see it from a totally different perspective, because they define that certain word or that certain meaning in a different way. So
Yep.
there need to be a consensus of what is talked about, so to speak.
Yes, and so when we engage in debates, we are completely wasting our time because
Yeah,
I've never
exactly,
ever watched
exactly.
a debate or argument where one party has won the other one over, and
Yeah,
the one party goes, "Oh, I get it now. Yeah, I fully understand where you're coming from. I was wrong." I've never actually experienced that, which is a very,
exactly.
very bizarre thing, and it's very indicative of the very, very powerful ego that all we want to do is just to spiel out what we think we know about the world, and we want to project that and impress it onto everybody else. And then when they don't accept, then we'll get frustrated and angry. So what I'm saying is, what is the fucking point? There is no point to anything really. This world is entirely fictitious. It is entirely created individually by our individual shards of consciousness. The vast majority of people have been programmed into their thoughts. They don't think for themselves. They've never thought for themselves, and they never will think for themselves. But if you should meet a philosopher who does think for themselves and can express to you why they have formed a certain opinion, well, it's a very eye-opening experience, and it's something to be deeply treasured. And this is why, the Platonic variety of philosopher of that ilk,
Exactly.
were sitting around and mulling things over, and it was a wonderful era. Who the fuck does
Yeah.
that these days?
Yeah, exactly. Like they did it in a way that it wasn't argumentative. It was like, let's see what this is.
Just a
And they
level of
put the cards
inquiry.
on the table and
Yeah.
they ask questions and so on.
Yeah, no biases, no bigotry, no power games, nothing. Just the pure, the purest of interest in discovery, wherever that may lead. Just being open to everything, being open to your hypothesis, being completely obliterated, if necessary, in the name of so-called truth. And so throughout my life now, there's a certain level of wisdom, and so I pose these questions, and if people contemplate them long and hard, then they would never engage in an argument, because it's completely and utterly superfluous. First and
Yes, yes,
foremost, what
yes.
everybody must do before they ever speak to anybody else is engage themselves with an argument for the minimum of 10 years before you have a certain qualification to be able to engage somebody else.
Yeah. Because it becomes, if you are in a room and you the most well articulated person, and all the other people are, yeah, just random people, and you start to talk, they will look upon you as, you talk like but they, like, you talk like that's how it is.
Hmm.
Because um, you just expound what's here.
Yeah.
So the other people will take it like, but first and foremost, you're not defending yourself, you're just expounding. You're not attacking anybody either, you just observe.
Yeah, the difficulty is, you see, now Socrates is renowned for saying "Know thyself." Now,
Yeah,
what Socrates used to do, he used to ask questions. Just questions, questions. And why he was hated so much is because he asked so many questions that people just simply couldn't answer, because they'd never thought about the answers, and they never had the cognitive wherewithal to be able to get to the bottom of any of these things. So
yeah,
Socrates made everybody look stupid. And when he was speaking to politicians and people in positions of power, they hated that. And so that's why the vast majority of them voted for his death, because they had been wholeheartedly intimidated by a genius, and their egos just didn't fucking like that. And so this is always the danger, you see, people. Now, we can engage in two basic ways. We can start talking as if we do know. We may think we do know. We may have a certain amount of knowledge and experience more than most people around us. And then some may want to accept what you're saying, and some people may want to discredit you or reject you because what you're saying doesn't fit with their egoic revelations, which they've had imposed upon them throughout their lives subliminally through hypnosis, and they think that their information is their own information when it's not. It's come from the fucking news channel. It's come from the
Yeah.
newspaper. It's not their own information. The other way, of course, is by just inquiring. And now, if you went into a room, Andre, and there's like five strangers there, and you just like started to engage and said like, what do you think about the nature of the universe? What do you think about evolution? What do you think about the simulation? What do you think about giants? What do you think about the Illuminati? What do you think about all these things? Well, very, very few people would be able to pass an articulate response to that. And they will be intimidated by you. They will think, oh, this guy's woo woo, oh, conspiracy. They'd do anything in their power to reject you because
Yeah.
you wouldn't fit with their very, very superficial and rudimentary knowledge level. So it's
Yeah.
very, very difficult being an intellectual to engage with idiots.
Yeah. It is.
And so what do? Well, we look for people that are not idiots and praise the Lord for the internet because we can search millions and millions and millions of YouTubers, and now and again we'll come upon one gem, somebody that actually does know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, well, there's much to be contemplated on that. Why should we take on board any notion or any concept? Because if we take um, a reductionary attitude towards anything, we will always end up in the abyss. In any case, we can reduce everything to Maya.
Hmm.
And even beyond Maya, we'll reduce it to the vacuum of pure God consciousness.
Yeah. Or total nothingness in the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So let's see what I have on the next page here on 135. If enough of us channel our thoughts into a specific realm, then the universe will manifest whatever we imagine, i.e., alien craft and beings. The more people focus on that phenomenon, the more such phenomena manifest. Later on, you come into the topic of egregores and so on. And
Leave the
that's what
egregores
they,
for a moment. Let's just address this one very briefly. You see, throughout time, um, when we give certain manifestations, thoughts, our mental energy,
yeah,
they become more and more real. And
yeah,
for instance, if you have a story of a whole haunted house, and everybody goes to the haunted house, and everybody's going to hear something weird, and everybody's going to be reiterating the haunted nature of the house, and they're going to be inventing or falsifying or assuming that a creaky floorboard was the ghost walking on it, when in actual fact it was just the wind rubbing on a gutter or a tree on the gutter, or something like this. If you plant a seed of a certain reality in someone's mind, they will always build upon that. But if you
yeah,
sent 100 people to a house and you never mentioned anything about being haunted, then nobody would come out of that house with a haunted story, probably. But you tell them it's haunted, then there's going to be a high portion of them that are going to be engaging in that level of mentalism.
Yeah, there's a thing to that, and I think there could also be the other way around, that it draws a certain demonic entities towards it because it's told, and those entities see their chance to step in.
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
Possibly, yeah,
Because if you have people who are open to it, then I think certain spirits manifest if you have a certain openness.
yeah,
If you're absolutely dismissive, for instance, like Richard Dawkins, absolutely dismissive of the spiritual nature of the cosmos.
yeah,
So no spiritual experience would ever be acquainted with him because he wouldn't recognize it if he saw one. Whereas if you were spiritually inclined, then you have a much more of a propensity to be in allegiance with something being phenomenological rather than, just being a physical reality.
yeah,
So egregores, of course, is a massive subject.
yeah. It comes here on the next page. On 136, egregores are egos that form in the inner levels of the mind. Whenever a group of like minded people come together for a common cause, they, egregores, are constructs of thought forms that contain all the information, symbols, affirmations, emotions, actions, memories, and permanent understandings of those who have accessed the group through the thought form before.
Now, there's a lot wrote about egregores in that chapter, and it's a very complex subject to get your head around. And so, I will only give one example of what an egregore is. An egregore is a manifestation of an energy form which can ultimately manifest into a physical form. Now, let me give you an illustration about this. Because people have read the story of Jesus for 2,000 years, the name of Jesus Christ carries an enormous amount of human energy. An
Yeah,
enormous amount of human energy has been directed into this name, this concept. And many people would have experiences of this egregore. Now, I have a personal experience of experiencing not a physical manifestation of an egregore, not a visual manifestation, but an audible manifestation of someone I just intuited, really felt as if it was absolutely the case that it was Jesus that was speaking to me. And then I saw Jesus, his face in this mural, as clear as day. And then I had this religious experience, which incidentally, there's one very, very similar religious experience written in William James's most famous book, Varieties of Spiritual Experiences, or varieties of religious experiences. Now, lots of people would maintain that they've seen the apparition of Jesus. They have been touched by Jesus, all different sorts of things about Jesus, because human energy is a very, very powerful thing. And it is human energy, human consciousness combined with the energy, which makes this world, this cosmos, manifest. Because there is no material matter here in the cosmos at all, according to the greatest of scientists that we've got. And yet we all swear that there is. Well, because consciousness is a very, very powerful thing. Human intention is a very, very powerful thing. So when you read the Bible, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was good, and the Word was with God, and all the rest of it. Well, in the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was the thought. And out of thoughts made manifest things. And so we act as if we are mini gods, because all we need to do is think about something. We can manifest emotions, we can manifest anger, we can manifest love, we can manifest hate, we can murder, we can help, we can do all different sorts of things. With a thought, we can build rockets, and we can create a reality, because it's via our thoughts and our concepts. We think them, we write them down into 2 dimensions, and then we give them to an architect, and then they'll create them in a 3 dimension. You see what's happening? We are making it manifest out of nothing.
Yeah. It's a similar way as affirmation works on oneself as well, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thought is more powerful, Andre, because if I think about a prototype for a car,
Yeah.
and I draw it, but my drawing isn't that great. So I take it to a technical drawer or an artist, and I say, look, I'll convey all of my ideas. And then, just like when somebody goes and sits before a police artist to speak about the person that they saw perpetrating a crime, uh, they would draw an average face, and then the person would go, no, the cheeks are more chubby. And then the artist would go, what, like this? Yeah, yeah, more like that. And then there was big furrows going down here. And then he had out sticking ears. And you build a profile, you see, and you make something manifest. So then
Mm.
that image manifests in the eyes of the police, and then they'll post this for the public, and then the public could go, yeah, I've seen someone looking like that. And then they get all different sorts of calls and everything. But you see, if getting back to the prototype of the car, I took my idea to an artist, and then they drew it, and I said, yeah, that's what I like. Then I would take that on to a technical drawer, who would then draw it in 3 dimensions. And then I would take it to an engineer, who would create it in 3 dimensions out of a certain material. And then other engineers, which would work the science and the functionality of it. Yeah. And so everything came out of an idea. And then one day there'd be a product of like a Tesla car, and that just sprung from somebody's idea. So everything that manifests in this world manifests out of consciousness. So we are
Yeah.
all, in actual fact, God.
Yeah.
Can you see how very, very plain and rudimentary that is? There's no
Yeah.
way that we could deny that in good conscience.
It is simple in a way.
Y- Yeah.
Yeah. I know I have um, articulated myself different, or what can I say? I have expressed myself in different ways throughout the years and so on. So if I go back to one of my writing blocks from 2011, 2012, I actually wrote things like I am God, I am Lucifer, and stuff like that, you know?
Right.
But because I experiment with the different way of being and thinking throughout the years, I just put that aside and want to be a bit suspicious of that for a while, you know?
Right.
Because what do I know, you know?
Well, yes. What do you know? And as young people, then of course, the older we become, the wiser we become. And probably what may happen is that you revert back to your original thoughts when you become, as old as me, because, I don't have any doubt that everything is in the mind of God.
Yeah,
Everything is God.
I think I already have reverted back to that thought pattern maybe a year ago, you know,
Hmm.
like that. Uh, but yeah, uh, next line I have drawn under here is on page 138. One of the benefits of positive egregores is that those who attach to it gain access to all the spiritual information of those who came before them.
Hmm. You see, these egregores, they're built up of a certain energy and a certain train of thought. And so when you then join allegiance with them, it's like joining a crowd. You know, there's a phenomenology to crowds, with the psychology of crowds, because crowds act very, very different to the individual. And psychologists have discovered that the vast majority of individuals who enter into crowds and do damage and violence and all these sorts of things would never ever do that sort of stuff on their own.
No, it's like mass psychosis. It's a
Yeah, so
mass
they enter
psychology.
into the egregore of the crowd. It's a
Yeah,
living entity unto itself. And you see, then I go on to speak about governments. What are governments? What are states? What are these power sources? How do they maintain their energy? I won't go into that now because it's very complex. It's very deep. If people are interested, they'll have to, read the book. But if you
yeah.
skip over the egregore bit now, because very, very few people listening to this video would have even heard of egregore, because it's a very esoteric terminology.
Yeah, I know that you recommended a book about the egregores one time also,
Yeah,
and I
by
haven't written it down.
Stavish, Mark
Mm,
Stavish.
okay. Mm, yeah. Let's see where I was. On page 139. I, on the other hand, curiously enough, have had chiefly Christian oriented experiences. In fact, very specifically so. Yet I'm still not a convert, as I want to see what else is on the market.
I'm still not a convert. Yes, I've not
Yeah,
been converted. I'm not a Christian. Um, because I know too much about it to have any belief to what is written in the Bible. Um, uh, but the curious thing is the religious and spiritual experiences that I've had have pertained very, very poignantly to the Old Testament and the New Testament. So Judaism and Christianity. Now, one occasion in the book, under the psychedelic experiences, I speak about being chastised by God, Jehovah, also Yahweh. You know that variety of Jewish God. I was chastised for 3.5 hours. Because of my transgressions against love. And it was a very, very powerful experience. And I learned an enormous amount from it. And it set me straight and it made certain realizations that everything about the cosmos is love. And what the fuck am I doing discounting love? I was discounting love because I was afraid of it, because it's caused me so much pain in my life. The death of my mother, of course, as a young child, devastated me and made me very insecure about love and about how females could feel about you. And then having relationships, one for 11 years, mother of my daughter, which was a very solid relationship. But in the end, it went south. Then the woman I married, I was with her for 7 years. And so, like 18 years of relationships. Then I just went into a spree of 200 or 300 um, uh, casual relationships, bar girls, pay girls, because there's a lot of charm in that, because you can get the greatest level of honesty in a conversation, because if you are just sharing a person's body and you're paying for it, um, after sex, and you lie there and maybe you sleep with them the whole night, and maybe you spend the day, maybe you see them on multiple occasions, maybe you start to get to know them a lot and consider them friends, like I did.
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. Some of them can be really nice and great to have around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you see, I don't call them prostitutes because I've never been with a prostitute, which is kind of like one of these old hookers standing under a lamppost with suspenders on and smoking a fag, and all this sort of thing. The stereotypical prostitute. I've been to
Or in the
Thailand.
one-time whorehouse and
Yeah, I've
stores
been
and
to
stuff like that.
Thailand and the Philippines, and to Bulgaria and America, and lots of these places where, in Africa, where sex is just sex. It is what people would do to enjoy, and there's no stigma around it. Only in poor countries, it's accepted as a given that random sex, you pay for it. And you
Yeah,
see, like
it's
Thailand,
hard to say where the line between a prostitute and
look,
other
people go to
women.
Thailand. Thailand,
Yeah,
the sex trade is a massive industry. And
yeah,
when you're in Thailand, there is no resentment at all. It's just what thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of girls do. And everybody else in the street is carrying on as normal. You go to places like Bangkok, where every other bar is a girl bar. And, you got food houses and girl bars. And it's the way of life. And there's no resentment. There's no jealousy. There's no stigma. It's a good source of income, and the girls seem to be doing fine with it. And they can get rich. What else are gonna do? Earn a pittance in a bar or waiting on tables and this and the other. So there's a great deal of benefit for the sex trade in the adult consenting realm. And I've met lots of beautiful girls, and in ideal worlds, I would have married a dozen of them. Because we got on so well, and it all ended in tears when I was leaving. Because I would always treat them with the greatest of respect and buy them a load of stuff and take them around everywhere and have great conversations and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's just how it is in lots of places, and
yeah,
people indoctrinated into the Western world just consider it to be abhorrent.
yeah.
When
They have a bit of the skewed vision of how it is. Yeah,
Yeah, when it's actually a beautiful thing. And
yeah,
how beautiful is it? When I was living in Africa, I knew a lot of girls. And you're just walking down the street and, hey, Aaron, so what you doing? What, how's things? This, that, and the other. And then it's kind of like, um, let's go back to my place, or let's go back to your place. And, if you're not busy, then okay. If you're busy, I'm too busy at the moment in time. Another time, yeah, okay, cool. I've got your number. And it's just all this sort of the girls look at you, well, as an opportunity to have, great sex and get paid. From a white man, well, he's going to give you double what any black man's going to give you. And so, treat you with more respect and all that sort of thing. And so there's just a casual love going around. And it's just it's a great environment. And nobody becomes attached to anybody because everybody's still single, and all the black guys have got as many girlfriends as they can afford, and all the black girls, they accept that, and so, well, they have other partners and things. So invariably you'll find that the African women have got children from many fathers, and some of the fathers pay if they're honourable, and others don't. And you know, so much to be said. So much to be said about that. Anyway, I write about that in the book. People can learn quite a lot about
yeah.
Africa and Bulgaria from that.
Hmm. So on page 147, my sister always leveled at me that I was an obsessive because I would never waste even 5 minutes twiddling my thumbs. I
Thumbs.
was thumbs, yeah. I was always capitalizing on my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is uh, similar to me, but I would think you are a little bit more of that. You know, my brother is probably a bit. I yeah, I know people that I am with are obsessed people, and I am an obsessed person as well. You know, that's just how it is. You know, and when it's like what I do is great stuff. I do, you know. It's uh, why would you even ask if I work? Because I don't fucking care, you know.
Yeah.
There's other things to do, and that's actually the things that we are obsessed about doing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like to call it obsession. I like to call it determination or
Yeah,
love of what you're doing. Now,
yeah,
for me, I was very, very engaged in martial arts. When I was younger, to the point whereby some people would say it's an obsession. But an obsession is something that could be considered to be a detriment. There's nothing detrimental about being obsessed, with trying to better yourself in a spiritual art of karate. It's a spiritual thing. You have to
yeah,
be very spiritual and disciplined to bring out the best in you. And so, yes, I've done that, and with everything in my life. Reading books after books after books after books, obsessively seeking out knowledge. Well, philosophy means love of knowledge. And so I'm a philosopher. I love
yeah,
knowledge.
yeah,
So my sister called it obsession. I called it philosophy, the love
yeah,
of knowledge, the love of wisdom.
yeah. Yeah, that's how people look upon me as well as an obsessive person. But yeah, it really is a way of living and so on, and liking what you are doing, you know.
Yeah, and when you
And
see people who are successful, well, of course, they've all had these characters and characteristics and human attributes. Because
yeah,
unless you are super genius and everybody's just running after you, throwing money at you to do whatever you do, then you have to work very, very hard at it.
yeah,
And so all the stories that we are privy to about people who have made it, well, they've all got their very, very arduous stories to tell. Nothing's ever come easy to them.
hmm. So on page 148, whether humans, animals, or leaves, crisp packets, and paper cups, they all operate under the same cosmic law, as above, so below. And further down that page, um, I have underlined find we find that everything on earth falls in line with the cosmic laws, and the most natural thing of all is to dance whilst moving in a circle. You see the spiral of life. Yeah,
So let me just say that again for the benefit of the viewers that didn't quite grasp. I'm saying that animals, humans, paper cups, crisp packets, or leaves all act in a very similar way, and I'll explain that in a minute. In the spiral of life, or the waltz, the dance, the waltz. Um, because what I've observed many, many times in my life, and I've been absolutely fascinated by it. On a windy day, if you find leaves blown around in a circle, if you've got a certain area which traps the wind and traps the leaves blowing around, crisp packets, paper cups, those sort of things, then you'll see that they are all doing the waltz. They are all dancing in the circle of life, the spiral of life. And when you see the wind um, change its momentum, it picks up certain things and it leaves out certain things. So on one occasion, I was watching this dance of half a dozen leaves, a paper cup, and a crisp packet. And I watched as the intensity of the wind gathered up all of them into this waltz. And then when the wind would die down just a little bit, the paper cup was the first to sit out on the parameters of the dance floor, whilst the crisp packet and the leaves were continuing to dance. When the wind dropped a little bit more, the crisp packet never had the momentum. The wind never had the power, the energy to whisk up the crisp packet. So the crisp packet would sit on the outer extremity of the dance floor, and only the leaves were dancing. Then, when the wind went down even more, only the smallest and lightest leaves would still be dancing. But then, when the wind intensified, more leaves would join the dance. The crisp packet would join the dance. The paper cup would join the dance, and they'd all be dancing together. And I had tears coming down my cheeks when I watched that, because I realized, as above, so below, I realized that the cosmic energies really encourage us all to dance.
Yeah, don't stand in the way for the force to do it like all the other things are doing it, so to
You
speak.
see, you get these swirling dervishes,
Yeah.
in the Middle East. Then you get people like Gurdjieff, who set up a dancing school and said it's very, very important to dance and just to flow and just to do whatever
Ah,
you feel like doing, because it's exceedingly emancipating. Now, when I looked at those leaves and the paper cup and the crisp packet, absolutely free, absolutely
yeah.
uninhibited. They weren't bothered about being a crisp packet, about being a paper cup, or about being leaves. They weren't bothered about their differences. They were all dancing together. And it was the most beautiful thing. And just to see how they were setting aside and then joining back in the dance and then setting aside. If you watch a dance floor, then you'll see the exact same thing going on.
Yeah, push, pull, let go, move on. So it's like one want to have that in the inwards world as well, to be easy to let go and not cling on to anything. Okay, I know
Yeah,
this too passes away. Now it's
you
time for
just
me
just
to step in.
feel the energy. Feel the energy of the environment and dance. Just dance. How many people have you heard which will spiritually, euphemistically say, just dance. Dance in your life. Just be free. Be uninhibited. Don't carry the weight of the world. Go through life as if you are in a dance. So
Yeah,
that was a very, very beautiful experience.
yeah. Yeah, it's a very telling experience. It's something to think about. It's something. I mean, some things is necessarily not something you can express fully out in words. It's something that touches the unconscious as well.
Exactly. So you highlighted that line, and so
Yeah,
it obviously touched you. Can you convey how it touched you?
I would say that it was on a unconscious or subconscious level because I felt a certain thing about it.
Right.
That
Yeah.
okay, be uninhibited.
Yeah.
flow,
Yeah.
let it flow,
Yeah.
partake in the dance ever more intensely or something like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it might sound abstract or something like that, but it's like my experience of it.
Yes. And so there was a friend of mine who once sent me a short video from his phone, which was of some small, fluffy, white groupings of seeds, like can blow off some trees. Some trees have very, very fluffy seeds, and they may come down, in small groups or individually, but when they're blown around the ground, they gather up into balls. And some of the balls were about this big, and some of them were smaller. And this film, he never said anything, it was just a swirling around with larger and smaller balls of fluffy seeds which fell from the trees, and they were all dancing together, and they were moving at different speeds and different momentum, and it looked like there was a parent ball and baby balls, and the baby balls were following the parent ball. And then another friend of mine made a comedic scene with a voice over, speaking about, "Hey, wait for me, hey, mummy," and all this sort of thing. The animation of just these fluffy seeds, and so it's the beautiful imagination that some of us will actually see, rather than just not seeing anything, being blind to it, being dead to it. Another occasion was where there was, I think he was a philosopher of some sort. He was speaking about the spiritual realm, and he said, "Look, the spiritual realm, it can't very well be intellectualized, because it's an intuitive thing. It's a higher state of conscious thing." And so he was sitting on a beach, and he'd been reading a book, and his little girl, 3 or 4 years old, was playing at the water's edge. She comes running back up to him, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," having a bit of a chat. And then she noticed that when the wind picked up, it was blowing all the pages over one after the other in his book. And she said, "Daddy, look, the wind is reading your book." You see, with that level of beautiful imagination, of connection, to know that the wind is conscious, to know that the cosmos is conscious, to
Yeah,
allow yourselves to be free to think that the wind can actually read your book. What the fuck do we know what
yeah,
the cosmos is capable of?
yeah, yeah,
Things like that, we've got to keep our eyes open for them. And the next time, you know, in the autumn, when the wind is high and you see leaves blowing all around, you'll be much more mindful just to watch them, just be
yeah.
mesmerized by them.
Yeah, but it's similar to when you look at the blades and trees. All of a sudden, there can be some well-placed nettle just waving like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah, just
and it feel
one nettle. Hello, hello.
yeah, and when I experienced that first time, I wasn't on any mushrooms or
No,
anything like that, but previously, maybe a week ago or something like that, then I had been on mushrooms. So it opened up for that
yeah,
experience,
yes.
so to speak.
Yeah. And many, many of my videos, I'm speaking about how the trees, the leaves, some of them are shimmering like this, some of them are waving like that, some of them are much more awkward, and, because the branches are different thickness and the leaves are, bigger and heavier, and every single tree and bush has its own dance going on. And when you look at the blades of grass blowing, with the daisies blowing, and all different sorts of things, everything is dancing. If you just stop, slow down, and observe, you'll see the whole cosmos dancing around you. And the whole cosmos is actually beseeching you to join in and just dance. And when you really feel this, when your heart is a part of it, you absolutely know it to be true. It isn't woo-woo by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually a thing of the beautiful nature of the cosmic love that just
Yeah,
wants you to see it, just wants you to appreciate it. Because at the end of the day, what is the point in human consciousness if not to appreciate the world?
yeah,
We're here to appreciate.
yeah.
And the vast majority of us sadly can't do it.
Hmm. Next underlining on the same page. Since I have woken up, I have opted out of wasting my life force with those so-called productive tasks we call jobs. I now refer to them as psychologically destructive encumbrances. Instead of
Encumbrances.
encumbrance,
Psychologically destructive encumbrances.
yeah,
That
inst-
burden you.
yeah, instead of constructive or productive. It's all perspective, of course.
Now, the
Yep.
interesting thing is, of course, you are reading that book, and the things that you are underscoring are things that touch you
Yeah,
emotionally, spiritually, egotistically, personality wise. And because I know you a little bit, I know a bit about your lifestyle and what you do and don't do, and so I can see now that, well, of course, I wrote the whole book, and it's all a reflection of me. And whatever you choose is going to be a reflection of me. But I can see where you are in line very much with me.
yeah.
So, what do you make of that line?
I see it kind of exactly the same. Work is really destructive. It keeps people under stress, and I think it's like they don't know that they are tortured because they've been whipped. They've been whipped into thinking that is like they need to be a servile citizens and. Uh, Go with their heads down and just be a part of the proletariat,
Yes.
and it's it's despicable, I have talked to that with my mother as well because I tried to talk with her about this because I couldn't understand, and well, I look at she are when she is working, I look at that and talk to her about that but you really don't like to do that, you really don't like that, yeah. Because I can't imagine that she inwards, yeah, she has just been like uh, shame. People have been shamed into thinking that that's the right way of life, so to
Yeah.
speak,
Yeah.
and it hasn't gotten better. It's just have gotten worse and worse and worse in the form of stress and so on, because yeah, and often when they throw shit on previous ages and so in history, it's just because they want to hide it, that it actually was better in some ways back in the days, but
Well,
it isn't. It's just make believe for the material goods, get the flow of
yeah.
money, while we could sustain ourselves with some cows and some uh, vegetables on a farm,
Yeah. So when I was younger, I owned my own businesses and I used to work very hard. very often 12 and 16 hours a day. Um, and the more I engaged in those businesses, the more resentment I felt about being trapped within them because I was extracting little joy from the manifestation of more wealth and more power because my freedom was being stolen away from me and my spirit was being stolen away. And so ultimately, I sold up. I decided that I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. And that's when I moved to Bulgaria and I bought a lot of land and varying properties, and I was refurbishing old farmhouses. And for the first 6 months when I was there, I was working really, really hard, not for any money. In the beginning, of course, I sold the property for more, but I was doing it out of love. I could never have called it work. Work is something that you don't want to do. Work is
Yeah.
wearing a yoke. What I was doing, I was working very, very hard manually, building with huge stones and huge beams, and very labor intensive, digging and mixing up my own concrete and cement and all these sort of things, up and down ladders, and an enormous amount of work. But I loved every single minute of it, and I maintained that that 6 months was one of the best 6 months of my life because I was doing exactly everything through every single minute of the day out of love because I was super enthralled and excited to own this farmhouse in a tiny village in this backward country called Bulgaria. And nobody around me spoke English. And, I was out there on my own, pioneering. And it was just a wonderful experience, engaging in a different culture and learning about all the language and the cultural, norms and where to get all the building materials from and learning the language and feeling really accomplished. And my old man told me many years ago, the secret of this life is to find something that you like doing and be good at it. And so that way you would never be encumbered by work. Encumbered, you see, that's the word I used in that sentence. Um,
Yeah.
that we
Encumbered
shouldn't,
is like locked in or
yeah,
like that, you know?
Yeah,
All
we
right?
shouldn't be burdened. We shouldn't be encumbered. We should want to do things out of love because every second of what we're doing, we enjoy. And this
Yeah.
is kind of like in the old days, we'd be building our own homes, we'd be tilling the ground, we'd be sowing, we'd be reaping, we'd be milking the cows, we'd be doing all these sort of things for the love of providing for ourselves and our family in the
Yeah.
natural world. It was the most natural and beautiful thing to do
Yeah.
without the burden of exterior stress. We just had to
Yeah.
work with the elements.
Yeah. And the sun went up, then you went up, but the sun went down,
Yeah,
you went to bed.
yeah.
Mhm.
What could be more beautiful than that?
Yeah. Here is where I thought there was lines here, but yeah, here was a line. Only those who are spiritual warriors will rise through the echelons into the kingdom of God. Whatever that means, but it certainly pertains to levels between notions of good and evil, and in every encounter where we overcome evil, which is simply our fear, we must be advancing upon a little more ground, closer to God.
So read the sentence one more time for me, please.
Only those who are spiritual warriors will rise through the echelons into the kingdom of God, whatever that means. But it certainly pertains to levels between notions of good and evil, and in every encounter where we overcome evil, which is simply our fear, we must be advancing upon a little more ground, closer to God.
Yes. So, spiritual warrior, we have to be fearless. We have
Yeah,
to go upon the hero's journey.
yeah,
We have to face all adversity and we have to push through and we have to succeed. If we do not succeed, then we fail and we don't complete the hero's journey. So we are not heroes, we're failures.
yeah,
And so this is why all these movies about the spiritual hero, they go on these quests, to save people or save the world and all these sort of things. And ultimately, what we're doing, we are um, fighting our way through evil to get to love. So from hell into heaven. And that's why I said, whatever that means, the kingdom of God, whatever constitutes the kingdom of God, because it varies for many, many people. For me, the kingdom of
yeah,
God is in a pure state of God consciousness, unencumbered by the human ego.
yeah.
And so the hero's journey. Then I knew you'd have an allegiance to that. So what did that mean to you?
Yeah. Of course, the warrior aspect is something that always resonates with me. And being fearless is also something I admire a lot, have courage and so on, you know. And I think I have a lot of courage. Also is seen as a person with a lot of courage, you know. And I, at certain points, I have been courageous, and it didn't went as I maybe had wanted it to go. But
Yeah.
everything is still a part of the process, and I never know what it brings further down the line.
Yes. And so along the hero's journey, there are dragons to slay, and we encounter great trauma, many, many difficulties emotionally and physically in life, and overcoming these, always heading for the light, never giving up, never being too afraid to fight. We can be afraid when we engage in battle. It's a natural thing to be afraid, but never be afraid not to enter into battle. Always be afraid to enter into battle. That's courage. That's
Yeah,
the honor. That's the prerogative of all respected warriors and gods.
yeah, exactly. To do the right thing, to act on the
Yeah,
right thing, um, to have a spine, to have principles, and so on, is
yeah, because
very
in
important.
the Bhagavad Gita, the most
Yeah,
famous passage always quoted is when Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, and
yeah,
Arjuna is perplexed and saddened because the war that he's about to engage in is fighting with family members.
yeah,
And it's the last thing he wants to do. But Krishna says to him, well, if you run away, then you will be slayed as a coward. Uh,
yeah,
if you enter into battle and you're slayed, you'll be slayed as a hero. This battle is coming to you. There's no way you can avoid it, whether you run or whether you fight. So go and fight with honor. Do the right thing. And so the great wisdom in that. Go and slay family members who you may love, that don't feel the same way about you.
Yeah.
So there's obstacles in life that we are confronted with that are
Yeah.
very, very difficult decisions, but you have to go with what you know is honorably correct,
Yeah.
totally correct.
Exactly. Hmm. To hmm. I started to think about the tarot card, the Eight of Cups, which is to go the hermit's journey. Also,
Right. Yes. Well, I mean,
yeah, the hermit.
yeah, the
Mm.
hermit's journey is another journey in its entirety. I've done all of these. I've done the hero's journey. I've done the Dark Night of the Soul journey. I've done the hermit's journey. For many years, and uh, you have to do these journeys
Yeah,
because in these realms of darkness, that's where you'll see the light. And
yeah,
I was watching a video last night, and it just so happened to be speaking again about Plato's cave. Plato's cave, written 2,000 years ago, was one of the most powerful parables that we could ever read. It is timeless. It will always pertain to human consciousness, about the great importance to be brave and head towards the light.
yeah.
And don't settle for darkness, ignorance, and fear.
No. Stay busy and with doing things that are moving one in the right direction.
And sometimes, you've got to make very, very big changes, like the guy that decides to break out of his chattels and exit out of the cave into a world which he didn't know existed, enter
Yeah,
into another world, because he knew that the world he was in wasn't right.
yeah,
And how many people are prepared to make those changes? So I speak today in my video about this sort of thing, how we need to be strong, we need to assess what we're doing, where we're failing, where we are just being complicit in our own comfort and our own demise, really. People may think that they're doing fine in their little slavery because they're paying off their mortgage and they're building for their nest egg and all these different sorts of things. But when you're a spiritual person, those things don't mean anything to you at all. So therefore, you can say that they are completely worthless to anybody who has spiritually woken up.
yeah,
And they're only of value to the ignorant and the fearful.
yeah, yeah. It still is a hard conundrum for me how to manage myself in this world in a way because I have my vertigo, which is which even if I wanted it, even if I didn't had the vertigo, the job would be like, oh, I didn't really don't want to work, but yeah, so that's one thing, and I need to put food on the table. And
Well,
now I'm so fucking ripped because I could eat more food, but it's looking really good. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
could
So
eat more.
there's benefits there. You see, once you get comfortable and you've got a lot of money and you can afford to overindulge, then you'll lose that physique, you'll lose the sharpness, and you'll become something that you're not too happy with. And you'll look at the compromise that you've made, and you'll realise that well, you've thrown a certain beautiful facet of yourself away just for the trinkets and the glistening things of the devil.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I would even if I had money for more food, I would still be ripped, you know. But I don't need to be so ripped that I am. You know, I could at least have maybe 6 or 8 body percent fat instead of like 3 or 4. You know.
Yeah, so we make compromises because um, if you see the thing is, of course, not to engage in slavery because you want these other things. You got to ask
Yeah.
yourself, well, what do these other things mean to you? Well, if I had a car, then I could get the girl. Well, if you need the car to get the girl, you're getting the wrong girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, so you just be yourself. You just cherish the things that really mean something to you, and the right girl will come for you. But if you
Yeah,
try to change things to be somebody else, then you are going to be attracting people that aren't meant for you. And so, what are you
exactly,
doing really?
exactly,
You are destroying your whole livelihood by buying into this nonsense. And
exactly.
so, if I look at my life now and I go, look, well, I don't go anywhere to meet anybody. I don't go to expensive restaurants where I'm going to meet someone that can afford to pay for expensive foods. And, they look at me and how I am, and it's kind of like, he's not the sort of guy that he's going to have a lot of money, or I could take home to my parents, and all these sort of things. But you see, a person with another frame of mind would look
Yeah,
beyond that, and they would go,
exactly.
"Why is this person so free to have that long beard and that scruffy hair and not bother to put his tooth back? What does he actually have that enables him to be able to do that? There's something of greater substance, you see, because I don't care about the superficial thing. I do this just to look more and more wild each day, um, be,
Yeah,
because it's it's my way of just allowing myself to be free. I don't have
yes,
to
yes,
conform
yes.
to anything or anybody's rules.
Yeah, that is kind of the thing I have felt also because I look at myself and I look at all the positive traits within myself and I see like that's a pretty decent dude right here, you know. And
Yeah.
then I can't measure it up with certain things and look upon it, but that thing over there is useless. But look at this is a lot better than most men, you know. It just is, you know.
Yeah, and so when you feel like that, well, stick to your um, principles. And
Yes.
if you want to engage in something that you feel a passion for and earns you money, then great, you see.
Yeah.
But don't be selling your soul and going to work in a factory, or, doing something that you don't want to do just to buy things that you don't really need, just because society thinks that you should.
Yeah.
Um, y- you know? Um, so, yeah, I mean, it's not easy to meet people this day and age, because of how insular people are. And even when I was younger, I would very, very seldomly meet anybody in my home country, because when you go out to the bars and the nightclubs and everything, in the nightclubs, you're not going to meet the right girls there. You know, they're well. You know, the probability is against it. You're going to meet the right girl doing something that you love doing
Yeah.
in that right environment. If you love being out in nature, you love foraging for mushrooms and this, that, and the other, well, one day you'll find a girl foraging for mushrooms, you know.
Yeah.
And the chances are you'll have a whole lot more in common than you would with any girl in a nightclub. And so I think it's a case of just allowing yourself to be free, and there's someone for everyone. And you look around at the world, and lots of people seem to have partners, and you think, how does that work? But it's a funny old world, and so. But of course, if you are being more hermit-like, then you're reducing the probability. So that's something that you may need
I
to consider.
do talk to people and so on when I'm at the store and at the gym and so on, and I even talk to nice girls sometimes. I might see their whatever. There's something to talk about. There are few girls that are pretty decent, and not only pretty decent. I met a girl at the gym that had read Nietzsche and Greek philosophy, and
Wow.
she even knew what the Julius Evola was and so on.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
she? Was she a student of philosophy?
She was like she was into Thai boxing and stuff as well.
Wow.
Yeah. I took it as well. That's a meeting that was interesting. I met her a couple of times by now.
Yeah,
I
sounds like.
started to talk with her, and then she was into the boxing at the sack a bit, and then she waved at me, then came up to me and talked again. She
Right.
talked a lot.
Yeah, well, sounds like a very interesting girl into Thai boxing and philosophy and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, look, we're at 1 hour and 46 minutes. Then let's do one more line, and that maybe take us half an hour.
Yeah. Here is a line on page 227. Take belief out of the cosmic equation, and there would be a dark, infinite void of cosmic consciousness, bereft of any dream to dream. Our belief creates our reality and exponentially expands the scope of the dream we can experience. The more we believe in our existence, the more we can create.
Yeah. So, what do you make of that? What I will say at this point in time, for anybody that's listening this far, if they aren't intrigued uh, sufficiently to buy the book, I give up on I don't have much hope for them, because they would never be purchasing any books of any magnitude if they are afraid of a book which in the paperback version is £25 or dollars. They are seriously limiting um, their progression
Yeah,
at the end of the day. If they value £25 or dollars uh, too much, that they wouldn't just buy. I'm buying books all the time. and I'm buying big, hefty books, Dostoevsky books with 2.5 inches thick, and all this Madame Blavatsky stuff, Secret Doctrine, ISIS, and everything. They're all this big. I don't want no flimsy little fucking pamphlet. I want to get into the depth of stuff. I want seriousness. And so if you want that, you got to put the work in, and you got to spend a little bit of cash. For those that don't do that, well, they'll just fuck themselves. They'll fuck themselves from the cradle to the grave. That's all they're ever doing by withholding, being anal retentive, not going that extra mile. Oh, some people have said to me, "Oh, I'd pay £20, but I draw the line at 20 for a book." What the fuck are you talking about? You draw the
Uh,
line at your own personal development for £5.
yeah, it's hard to think what the people really value, but I don't drink alcohol very often, but this have to do a little bit with this as well, because people can drink really, really bad red wine, I like
Hmm.
red wine, but you should pay some extra money to get a good red wine.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I've tried red wine from a person and it tastes shit, And I think
Hmm.
about what kind of person drinks that shit,
Yeah.
It should be a Maroni wine for a couple of yeah, good money,
Yeah.
And it will taste great, And
Yeah.
uh, I mean, this book ain't expensive the least,
Yeah. I mean,
I
compared
mean, there's
to,
a book that you could pay 1,000 quid for as well, And
yeah. Well, you see,
so,
when you look at that book, the
yeah,
thickness of it, nearly 700 pages. If you go on Amazon and you look for the price of books, invariably you're not going to get anything which is straight off the printing press for less than £10. So that would equate, and they're going to be like this thick. So let's say 7 times 10, then my book will be worth £70. But people, they'll buy less for relatively more. So they'll pay like, £10 for a book when it's like this, when my book's like that. And so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, you much more value. But people don't see it like that. They just see a cap on how much they're prepared to spend on a book. And it's phenomenal.
they don't value what they can get from a book,
Yeah.
And maybe there may be different reasons for why they wouldn't do it. Maybe it is because uh, they just buy the top 10 most popular books or whatever. Yeah, I don't
But
know.
I think a book of that thickness is pretty intimidating because, like
Yeah,
I say, out of all the people that have bought it, there's only been one or two actually have finished it, and had anything to say. And I'm like, if you don't have anything to say from 1/4 of a million words, philosophy, spirituality, religion, on and on and on and on, well. I'm sorry for you. I'm generally sorry, you know. But anyway, by the by, so what's that line?
yeah. So belief is the glue that holds our human experience together. I read that also. So take belief out of the cosmic equation, and there would be a dark, infinite void of cosmic consciousness as bereft of any dream to dream. Our belief creates our reality and exponentially expands the scope of the dream we can experience. The more we believe in our existence, the more we can create.
So what do you think about that then?
Yeah,
That's pretty deep, dude.
yeah. Um, but we exist out of belief, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't any consciousness that could believe anything, in the first place there would be a dark void.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so very few people are prepared to even consider that, let alone accept it, because they
yeah,
don't know anything about their own psychology. They don't know anything about uh, the scientific discoveries which have been around for a long time. Very, very refined thinking people for thousands of years, which have been telling us that there's no physical matter here. It's all Maya, it's all consciousness. And they don't know what they would do if they entered into that reality. They're terrified that they wouldn't be able to function, or everything would mean nothing to them. Well, on the contrary, things mean more, because when you know more, you know about the complexity, you know about the genius, you know about the miracle, you know about how phenomenal everything is. Where did it all come from? How does consciousness create supposed physical matter? It's unfathomable how this world works. But to know that, it puts you in a whole different state of consciousness. And it's a wonderful, glorious thing, because what it actually does is it presents to you that you are actually God. Because without you, there would be nothing here, because we are all the center and the creator of our own universe. This thing we call consciousness, we think it comes from the brain, which of course it doesn't. But in this illusion, in this simulation, it appears to. And so it's all premised on faith.
yeah,
And when we don't have faith in it, we can become very Nietzschean, in that we can take the road to nihilism. We
yeah,
can take the road to solipsism, and we can become very insular, um, very detached. That is a bit of an issue, because all thinking people, all of the greatest philosophers have been very insular people, because that's the nature of the game. You know,
yeah,
once you know that it's all Maya, it's all premised on faith, and there's no reality, it becomes a very curious place.
yeah.
So how do you work with that? How do you manage your life, knowing that?
I mean, I have felt into a nihilistic mindset in the past. You know,
Yeah.
kept on doing what I did. You know, but I've been in times in my life where I felt like things were absolutely meaningless. You know,
Hmm.
and I think. I 2016, I just stared into the wall. It was probably between 2015, 16. It kept on, you know. It was like getting out of a dark hole for like 4, 5, 6 years. I don't know,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was incrementally, you know, and so on. But it was I stared into the wall like this. I want to break beyond the boundaries of this material world, because that was the only thing I could see at the moment, because I was overworked and just had been working and so on. Uh, yeah, so it was like losing the all spirituality out of everything. Even if I was into meditation for a long time before already, it was just I totally burnt out, you know.
Yeah.
So so
So
I got very nihilistic, because that's also where mushrooms came into the picture, because then I could break the veil of this
Yeah,
material world.
yeah, yeah. So I was just going to ask you, what was it that brought you round? So, can you attribute your newfound love for life to entheogens?
Yeah, absolutely. It puts another glistering, happy vibe to things
Yeah,
in
it
a
brings
different
about
way.
an aura of intrigue and brilliance and wonder. Gee, it brings the child back into
Yeah.
human consciousness again. And so when Jesus says, "Truly I say unto you that you need to become like little children before you enter into the kingdom of God," what he was really saying is that you need to take entheogens. And
Hmm.
without a doubt, they were all on them and they knew exactly what they were about. Um, and,
I've
you
been
know,
too long time since I had taken any, actually.
yeah,
In the end of 2022 was last time I really had a trip, you know.
right. Well, that's not too long ago. I mean, I had a psilocybin trip, I think about a month ago,
Yeah.
and I've got DMT on the way. So I'm looking at taking DMT in all my favourite places and repatriating myself again with that, the God molecule. Um, and, just seeing the world in an incredible, invigorating, and enthralling, beautiful way. And, I still carry a residue of those profound experiences that I've had. So it never goes away.
No.
So I'm wondering if I take it, again, I'll have a boost.
Yeah. My last really heavy mushroom experience was in the end of 2022. Then I think at beginning of 2023 also maybe I had one.
Yeah. And so what was the pinnacle of those trips?
Um, the one I took on 7 grams
Wow.
was
And what was that? Was that Semilancita or something else?
it was a combination of similar Zeta. I had like 2 grams of similar Zeta, and
Yeah.
the other was Cubensis,
Right.
like the stronger version of Cubensis, so to
Right.
speak, the
y-
golden teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what manifest?
It was partly a sexual experience in one way, because it was so heightened dosage, so it felt a lot like it was felt like within DMT and so on,
Mm,
and um, I worked through certain things of uh, love I had towards a certain two girls in the past and so on
mm,
also, and then I worked through other stuff as well, but it was very ordered trip, actually. Even if it wasn't 7 gram, it was very ordered in a way,
right.
but then later on I had a 8 gram trip also, and that trip just told me like have had enough now for a period. You don't need this anymore,
Right.
because I almost didn't felt that I got very much from the 8 gram one.
Right.
It was more like, yeah, you had enough,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. I don't know whether maybe they
because I
were.
didn't remember much of it either.
Yeah. So my last trip, I took 5 grams of Liberty caps, and under normal circumstances, fresh, that would be a very high dose. It's what
Yeah.
chemists call, hero's dose. But I took 2 grams a couple of months before, and I didn't feel that much from them, and so I thought, well, they might be old, and I thought, well, either I'll have a big trip or I won't have such a big trip. And so I took these 5 grams and went up to one of my favourite places. And after about an hour and 15 minutes, I felt nothing. And I'm like,
Mm.
well, obviously they were old and ineffective. So I started to walk back through the countryside, and all of a sudden I just slipped into the dream. And I'm like, wow, they took a long time to come on an empty stomach. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll continue on my journey. And as I did, of course, the nature, it becomes conscious and living. And you know you're in a living thing. You know you are among entities. Everything is an entity, whether it's the bushes, the trees, the leaves, the clouds. And uh, very tiring because psilocybin, when you're taking it out and you're walking, it makes you weak. And it
Yeah.
makes you shiver. And I was in goose pimples. It was a beautiful hot day, and I kept going into real goose pimples. All over my body was shivering. And
Yeah.
I was tired, and I was dragging my feet. And I thought, well, I'll close my eyes. But I never really saw that much. And so I thought, well, there's no point in lying down. So I'll just keep walking. And as I was walking up this hill, there were these huge white fluffy clouds in the sky. And there was a warrior spirit in the clouds. And he was like standing there like that with his arm like this, seemed to be holding a shield, and then a hand like this holding a spear. And it wasn't human.
Mm.
It was humanoid, with arms and legs and head, but it wasn't human, and it had some sort of a warrior helmet on,
Mm.
made out of maybe bronze, that sort of thing. It's kind of like bronze armor, gleaming, albeit it was all made out of cloud. It looked that sort of thing,
Mm.
donned in bronze and, some gladiator variety. And
Mm.
I'm like, wow, I had never actually seen any figures in the clouds before on all of my mushroom trips. On DMT, yes, straight away you're going to be seeing these things, but not on mushrooms. This is the first time I saw a non-human being. When on DMT, I always see, well, I see like Greek gods. They're all in
Mm.
togas with long beards and hair and everything,
Mm.
except if they're little cherubs with angel wings, or they're like, some sort of daemon, not demon, but like some sort of bat-winged creature which accompanies the gods. They're all
Yeah.
up in the clouds. But yeah, that was the highlight of that trip, and fascinating. And I said to myself, I said. I don't know whether I'll ever need to take that again now, because
Mm.
I I've got the message, you know. I
Yeah.
have the greatest connection of Mother Nature. I know what it's about. It's beautiful. The psilocybin trips are too long for me. When you
Mm.
take decent amount, you'll be in it for 6 hours, 8 hours. The first time I took about 3 or 4 grams, I was in it for 12 hours, and it's a long time when you're exhausted. So DMT, you're in and out within 15 minutes, and so that's the way forward for me.
Mm. Yeah. Then acid is like a bit too long, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So I've got a couple of tabs of acid, but I don't want no 12-hour stints. I've got too much to do. I've
You
got like,
get a lot of body load when you take it, also.
what do you mean?
Your skin gets like a bit sensitive when
Really?
on LSD. I like that feeling. It's
Right.
like a bit euphoric and like a bit like yeah, stimulating in
Right.
the skin and so on.
So what is a trip on a decent dose of acid in compared to a decent dose of mushrooms? What's the difference?
You can read the trip much easier, I would say. You can stay conscious within the patterning of the trip better in acid trip.
So
That's my experience, you know.
can you go in and out of it, or are you just in
Uh,
it?
you're more in it. In a mushroom trip, it comes more like in waves, you know,
Right,
like
right.
that. But in LSD or in it, you know.
So what's the visions like on acid?
Uh, they can shift, you know, because there exist a couple of different acids, you know.
Mm,
There's one called ALD52, which is acid also. That is very golden in its shimmering.
right.
ALD52, I like that one because it has this golden touch to everything.
Mm,
Even you know if you look at like a place where there's campfire and look at the stones, you can see so detailed everything. Like if there's a little bit of moss on the green, or the green part is like shimmering, like
yeah.
green and goldish. I love that vision, you know.
So
And
the psilocybin for me, everything moves, everything breathes,
yeah,
everything is conscious and sentient, and kind of like is communicating with you. And very often trees will have a dialogue with you.
yeah.
Um, and
LSD is like that as well, I would say, but still different, you know.
yeah, and so uh, what likelihood do you think there is with LSD of having a negative trip?
I think that's easier to
It's
have
your own consciousness.
on mushrooms is more likely than
More
on
likely on
LSD.
mushroom.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mm,
But on LSD, I learned that substance pretty well, you know,
right.
the ins and outs of LSD. So I have a pretty easy time to stay present in a high dosages, also, you know.
Yeah, and so does anything communicate with you like it does
Yeah,
like
yeah,
mushrooms?
yeah. The trees can also communicate, yeah,
Right.
and so like one friend of mine, we were three, me and two other friends. And one a friend of mine said, "We are breathing," and then the tree started to crack, like you heard the cracks within the tree, and then that synchronized it, and because it signaled that the tree is also breathing,
Greedy.
breathing.
Breathing. Oh, breathing. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so then on DMT, where everything turns into like a cartoon world, and everything looks like it's been painted with watercolors, all the natural world, but the man-made world looks like it's absolutely pristine, built out of Lego.
Hmm.
And when I was taking DMT up at my 10th floor apartment down in Portugal, I would take it and look out at the balcony. And when I looked down at the road and saw the cars, it looked like Scale Electric.
Hmm.
The cars it looked like a simulation. The whole place was like a simulation. All the trees looked like they were living, hi, hi, all the trees going hi. And Absolutely. The buildings were pristine, immaculate, and there's no decay on anything. Everything is immaculate. I once took DMT by a swamp, and the swamp was all boggy and bubbling and black and putrid. But then on DMT, it was swirling with all the colours of the rainbow, and it was alive and it was beautiful. Oh, wow. Yeah. DMT is absolutely my favorite. It's the most wonderful, and you go in and out in a short trip, and then you have the euphoria for like an hour or two, and it's kind of like, wow, that was just amazing, amazing, amazing. Whereas
Yeah,
mushrooms, you get the message, and it's kind of like, okay, I've got the message now. I want to go home and have some meal and do this and do that. Well, you can't because you're in it. You're in the dream, and it's got your.
yeah,
It's kind of like you're contained, and I'm like, I don't like that level of containment. An hour's trip, okay, fine, but So yeah, I'm not sure whether I never say never, but I'm interested in doing peyote because that's a whole different experience.
yeah,
Um, and maybe changa to have an extended DMT experience for an hour, something like that.
yeah,
So, quarter past the hour now. So 2 hours and 50 minutes.
yeah,
One more. Let's just do one more and kind of like round up about 2:30. My 2 hours
yeah.
30. Sorry.
So on page 228, to be in a position to appreciate a mountain, we will need to be in a physically optimal condition, the state of health and fitness to climb it. And yeah, that is really, it's important to take care of the temple, so to speak.
Yes, because of course, climbing a mountain is a wonderful experience. It's a 1,000,000% a human experience. And when you climb a mountain of some magnitude, you go through a lot of stuff. And if you climb a mountain like I did and felt as if I was going to die on it, then it's quite something. So you have a whole array of experiences, mental experiences, physiological experiences. It's climbing a mountain. They're not supposed to be easy.
Yeah, I would want to do that because I've always had swindle, afraid of heights and so on.
Right.
Because when I was like 5 years old, I was on my father's shoulder when we walked up a castle, and my father, he was afraid of heights, really afraid of heights, but he did it for the sake of me. So
Right.
probably it it went over to me as well because he wanted to show me, because my brother ain't afraid of heights or anything like that.
Yeah.
So because of that experience, I felt his fear of heights, so I got it also.
Right.
But I have thought about it that I really want to climb a mountain or something just to get over it. Because when I'm in middle of climbing, I have no choice to just still climb,
Yeah, and you
and
you
I
don't
will
have
get over it.
yeah, you don't have to climb up sheer faces. You can climb up just an ascent, which you know shouldn't be too terrifying because you're not going to be looking directly down. When I
Yeah,
climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, at a certain point in the journey, about three-quarters of the way up, we had to traverse across a sheer rock face. And this rock face was hundreds of feet tall, but the only way to get over it was very, very curiously, the whole cliff face like this was split into two parts. So it had a shelf coming out and then going down like that. And this small shelf was about 2'6" wide, and you had to walk along for about 300 yards, looking down, and that was pretty terrifying. Um, you start to look down, and your body has funny, So the guides were saying, "Don't look down. Just keep looking where you're placing your feet. Don't look down, unless you're really confident that you can do that." And I don't think I could do that today.
Mm.
But I did it no problem then. Um, uh, and I later found out that many people die on Kilimanjaro each year.
Mm.
There's very few professional guides that guide tours, and there's all different sorts of things, of course, which can go wrong. But it was a
Mm.
fantastic experience for me. One, of course, I wrote extensively about in the book.
Yeah.
And so, what was that last line again? Let's just see if we can.
To
Uh,
be in a position to appreciate a mountain, we will need to be in a physical, optimal, conditioned state of health and fitness to climb it. And
yes,
I think, I mean, it's a very simple line in one way, but it tells you something that is very important, and it is the physical body, because
yeah,
many people deny the physical body, and
yeah,
I think
and
many spiritual people also deny it, almost like, oh, it's ugly to care too
yeah,
much of the physique. No, it's fundamental. Uh, so within, so without.
yeah. Because if you are not extremely physically fit and you haven't pushed your body to the maximum parameters, you don't know what your body can do. And if you don't know what
Yeah,
your body can do, then fear will kick in because you'll be afraid of uncertainty. And when you are encountering difficulties on a mountain, fear will drain you of your energy. And so that will be your major obstacle. If you are fearless, then you are generating a massive amount of energy, and you can literally
yeah,
do anything. But this whole thing has been the core of the essence of my life. Always been extremely physically fit and able and confident, and that's what's enabled me to travel extensively around the world, mostly on my own, and doing all these wonderful, incredible things, fearless as a young man, which I couldn't do now because I'm not anything like as able-bodied. I was supremely fit and strong then. And capable. And so I did many, many things. But you see, I write another piece in the book about when we are supremely fit, we enter very easily into the kingdom of God. Because when we are cardiovascular, respiratory, and physically absolutely supremely fit, we can climb mountains, we can run aim endlessly through tropical rainforests and on beaches, and we will be at the absolute height of our functionality, which the cosmos created and designed us to be. We are absolutely living with the apple's eye of what the creator wanted us to be. And then you know that you are a part of the cosmos. You know that you are a wonderful product of the cosmos, mate. And so to this day now, I'm still pretty fit. Not like I was before, where I could run marathons and things like that. But having a level of firmness and strength, and all your muscles are, they're tight and they're pumped, and you feel able. And then when you reach up to the sky and you look at the sun and you feel the energy and the power, and you know that the sun is a mini god. At the very least, because it bringeth light and life, and you get your energy from it. I'm very, very pagan, and being out in the elements is so incredibly empowering.
Yeah,
People
being
who
that.
are not fit like us, they will never experience what I'm speaking about. And
Hmm.
it's a great shame because to be physically fit all of your life, able-bodied, confident, and taking on all of these challenges and
Yeah,
succeeding, being the hero, going on the hero's journey.
yeah, yeah. It's very weird how to look in the mirror and not see something that fucking this look great, you know.
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, some people might look in the mirror and don't like what they see in the mirror,
yeah.
you know.
I couldn't possibly do that. I couldn't live with that. I couldn't live. My spirit, my soul couldn't inhabit. Um, I don't know what happened there. Can you still
Yeah,
hear
it
me?
froze. Yeah, I still hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my picture's gone. Funny enough. It was
Yeah,
back.
no, it moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what was I saying? My soul, my spirit couldn't inhabit a body if it wasn't in a very high level of performance. I didn't
Yeah.
come here to be sedentary and to be weak and afraid. No,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
came for the hero's journey.
Yeah. That's a great thing. Being a warrior, being oneself to 100% in no hang-ups around anything and so on.
Yeah. And when
Free, like you said, you know.
yeah, and when you want more energy, you
Yeah.
demand that energy from the cosmos. You call it down. And when I was training for full contact karate for all those years, and I'd be running and I'd be doing everything, and be engaging in full contact, fighting for hours and hours. And when I needed more energy, I just demanded it. I just called it down, and I received it. Uh,
Hmm.
because that's just how it works. We are the cosmos. We are electromagnetic beings. We're light beings. We're, we're,
Yeah.
we're cosmic dust. We are the cosmos. And so your consciousness is the cosmos. If you desire it, demand it,
Yeah.
take it, then the cosmos is yours. And I'm getting more and more into this as I'm delving very, very deep into, Gnostic mysticism and the deepest mysticism and gnosis from all over the world, the things they knew and the capability of the human being, the
Yeah.
superhuman being, the Ubermensch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sounds like a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Um,
Very, very nice ending. Yeah.
Long live
Beautiful.
Ubermensch!
Yeah.
Viva the
Long.
Ubermensch! You know where it's at, dude. Well, another great conversation, Andre. Really appreciate your time. I appreciate you plowing through that book and imparting what you take from it and sharing your wisdom. It's very satisfying for me to engage like this. And as you're only 150 pages through, well, we've got a long way to go yet, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. 250 pages.
Oh, you're 250 pages, right? 250
Yeah.
pages now. And so, how much did we actually start your new list this time, or were we still working on the old list?
I think we actually were in the beginning on the new list, maybe. Yeah.
Right.
But there's still a fair amount of underlinings still.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think there's any value in us rushing these things because
No.
it is too important. There's too much to say. There's too much to learn. From discussing these things, and so I'm happy for as long as it takes. Just to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how long it takes, as far as I'm concerned. You'll be the gauge of how much time you've got. So as and when you've got time, then we'll do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, in 2 weeks time or something
Yeah,
like that.
beautiful. I'm speaking to Tommy tomorrow because
Okay.
he will have finished the book by now, and so
Hmm.
we'll have some more insight from him. And the last conversation was a great one, about 3 hours
Yeah.
long, I think. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes. And yeah, well, enjoy being you, enjoy your human experience. Until we meet again, my friend.
Yeah, you too, mister. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Andre.
Cheers.
Bye now.
Bye.